It's been a while. It's been a minute since we've been able to get together and
It sure has. Yeah.
record because life is busy.
Very busy.
And the weather is nice, so we like to be outside every chance we get.
That's right.
But we're back today,
Nice.
and I'm hoping to at least try and do one episode a month, just obviously because I want to, and maybe once fall comes and stuff, and summer is slowing down, and maybe we can reevaluate, and if we have more time and all that stuff. But yeah, so we are here with another episode of your Creepin' Me Out podcast. I'm Maria.
And I'm Jessica.
And today we're talking about one of Michigan's longest running cold case. And it's actually the 33rd year anniversary of this was on May 24th.
Wow.
So this happened 33 years ago. So that makes it 1990.
Okay.
So I was 2.
Okay.
But anyway, so this is about Paige Renkoski. Have you heard of this one?
No.
I mean, as much true crime podcast shows, Datelines 2020 that I watch, I've not heard or seen anything about this one.
Yeah.
So when this popped up, like this article popped up on my feed the other day, I was like, what is this?
Okay.
It's really interesting and it's pretty crazy.
I'm excited.
Yeah. So this, like I said, happened in 1990 on May 24th. Paige was 30 years old. She was a substitute school teacher from Okemos, Michigan. And yeah, she disappeared. So let's start I'll give you a little taste of what this is about, and then I've got a lot more stuff to cover. But she was last seen talking to 2 men on the shoulder of I-96 near Fowlerville, Michigan. So this is in southern Michigan, near Detroit area, so on the east side-ish. Her disappearance is one of Michigan's longest running cold cases. Her vehicle was reported abandoned on I-96, and though the responding officer discovered her car was still running with both her purse and shoes inside the vehicle, the police did not process this as suspicious, but merely had the vehicle towed. Yeah, so that's the gist of it, and she's still missing. So spoiler.
There was no evidence to what she was doing there?
I'll get into that, but no, not really. Not really. Okay. It's very, very weird. In fact, I read somewhere at one point, one of the officers or detectives or whatever said, it's like she just disappeared into thin air, and she's just gone.
Wow.
So, pretty crazy, but Paige was the second of 4 daughters born to Carl and Ardis Renkoski. She and her sisters had spent their early childhood years in Haslett, Michigan. Paige had been in middle school when the family moved to Okemos. That's how you say it, Okemos, right?
Yeah.
I've heard people say it differently, and I didn't think that sounded right.
Well, sometimes I think I used to pronounce it Okemos.
That's what I've heard it. Yeah. Okemos, but I didn't think that that's how it was pronounced, but Okemos. I don't know.
Yeah.
But anyway, her mom, Ardis, described Paige as being the family clown, always able to make people laugh. She had a smile that could light up a room. Heard that before. But a friendly personality that ensured she always had a lot of friends. Paige had done some modeling as a teenager, but her first love had always been children. She had been known as the neighborhood babysitter and often spoke of how she wanted to eventually get married and have a family. She had earned an associate's degree in early childhood education and worked as a substitute teacher in educational child center care in Lansing.
Wow.
Yeah. So Paige, and then we'll get kind of into the timeline of how things happened.
Okay.
But Paige left her home in DeWitt Township, Michigan on the morning of Thursday, May 24th, 1990, and headed for her mother's home in nearby Okemos. Her mom was flying to Atlanta to spend Memorial Day weekend with one of Paige's sisters, and Paige had agreed to drop her off at Detroit Metropolitan Airport. The drive took about 90 minutes, and Paige spent most of it telling her mom about her plans for her November wedding. So she was engaged and she was getting married.
Okay.
It was around 11:30 a.m. when they arrived at the airport and said their goodbyes. As Artis watched her daughter pull away, she had no idea she would never see her again.
Wow.
And here's a little blip from one of the a member of the Livingston County Sheriff's Department cold case team, Mike Freyer. He said, "We believe there's someone out there who knows, and they are re-examining the Renkoski files." That he said in a recent interview with the Livingston Daily, "It is time for them to do the right thing, and it's time to come forth and tell us what they know." He said, "This family and this young lady deserve justice." So Renkoski was then seen at around 2:30 p.m. and 2:45 p.m. at a party store on Ford Road west of Interstate 275 in Canton, where she purchased a beer, which was found in her car. The clerk from the store has a vivid memory of Paige because she wore distinctive multicolored, loose-fitting, flower-patterned pants and distinctive necklace, the latter of which the clerk asked Renkoski about because, she just noticed it. So,
Interesting.
yeah. And then once Paige was reported missing, the investigators realized that the Oldsmobile was a potential crime scene. So I had mentioned earlier that they had just towed her car for some reason, even though it was running on the side of the highway.
Right.
So they realized it was a potential crime scene and went to the property yard to secure the car. And like I had mentioned earlier, they had found her purse, her wallet, identification, and money appeared to be untouched. So, and then oddly, the white sneakers she had been wearing were found partially under the driver's seat, as if she had taken them off while driving and pushed them back out of her way. A partially consumed bottle of beer was also found in her car. So, isn't that weird? Like her shoes were off.
Yeah, like I'll tell you what, there are some times when like I have like an ache in my ankle or something, and I kind of like pull my shoe off just a little bit.
Yeah.
But I don't think that I've really taken my shoes off completely and just like shoved them behind me. I mean, it's totally possible. Some people drive without shoes on, but
I know. That's what I was
very
thinking.
Strange why she would do that while she was driving. Is it possible she was like sitting there hanging out with somebody?
I know, but on the side of the expressway?
Yeah, that's really weird.
I don't know. It's like, it's just super strange. And the shoe thing is what gets me. It's like, but they were tucked underneath, the driver's seat. So like,
and if she were going somewhere, she would have taken her shoes with her.
Right.
Because who's gonna walk on the side of the road with like debris?
On the highway with no shoes. Ow, that would not be good. But various witnesses reported seeing her drive west on I-96, including one woman who claimed she might have seen the missing woman at a rest stop. However, Freyer, that investigator that I had mentioned earlier, is quick to point out that the witness has Alzheimer's today, so they have not been able to confirm that report. A couple of long-haul semi-drivers reported seeing an attractive blonde fitting Renkoski's description as they drove alongside or past her vehicle on I-96, which that's kind of creepy if you ask me. Like, they're just looking down at people while they're driving.
Yeah.
But it says, from their description, we believe they saw her, says one investigator. So, and then the first motorist known to notice Renkoski told the original investigators that he saw the 1986 Oldsmobile Cutlass on the side of the road several times that day because he traveled back and forth to Lansing. So he remembers that it says, but what he remembers today is different than what the investigators have been able to confirm. So it's like after 20 plus years, they're getting all sorts of different stories now. So they change, and I mean, that's bound to happen, right? Because people forget stuff after so long. But anyway, it says in the majority of the reports, the cold case team agreed they have placed Renkoski's disappearance on the shoulder of I-96 in Livingston County between 3:15 p.m. and 4:30, when she was possibly seen with a man in a burgundy or maroon-colored minivan. So some people say that they saw her with two African-American men, and one seemed to be like consoling her, like had his arm on her shoulder or on her arm, in a burgundy or maroon minivan. And then it says throughout the years, witnesses' descriptions have been put to paper by a police sketch artist. One sketch from 1999 shows a smaller man, while nearly 800 tips later, a taller man is described. So it's like
really
all of these people are saying they saw all these different things. So long story short, it's just been really hard to identify anything in this investigation, especially because they took that car immediately
and
to the tow. Yeah, like, so that right there, I feel like takes so much off of the investigation that they could have potentially.
Don't the police get involved with, towing vehicles off of the side of the road? I feel like they come over and I thought that's what they do.
Well, yeah, the police, that's what they did. They came and they were like, this car needs to be towed. Because people were like, this car's just been sitting on the side of the expressway running. So they're like, we'll get it out of here.
They wouldn't investigate it,
Yeah, like nobody's in it. There's a purse in it. You would think that
That's
somebody.
The thing. Yeah. If you have a purse in there, shoes in there, that's concerning.
Right. So, it's a woman at that point, probably. So, yeah, it's very strange. But the fiance, so I had mentioned that she was getting married.
Ask about him.
Yeah, I was curious about this too. So, a little bit about them. So, Paige had met Steve in 1988 and knew instantly that he was the man she was going to marry. She moved into his DeWitt Township home after they got engaged in early 1990, and they were planning to have a November wedding. Paige intended to run a daycare center from the home after they were married and had already started the process of getting the required permits. Her mother told investigators that Paige had been extremely excited about the future and would never have voluntarily disappeared. Like, what's going on there?
Yeah.
So her fiance, Steve, and I don't know how to say his last name, but it's like DeBrabender.
Okay.
He was the first to realize that something was wrong. He had expected to see his 30-year-old bride to be at a softball game that afternoon, but she failed to show up. There was no sign of her at the home the couple shared, and there was no answer at her mother's house. So he had called there. It was extremely uncharacteristic of Paige to be out of contact with her loved ones, and Steve grew increasingly frantic as the time passed with no word from her. So eventually, he decided to drive to her mom's house to see if she was there. And it says Paige's little red sports car was parked outside her mom's home, but the house was dark and quiet and no one answered. And Steve kept knocking and nobody was answering, so he was worried that something might have happened, so he broke into the house, but no one was inside. But the light on the answering machine was blinking. So he was hoping it would be a message from Paige. He hit play, and he was shocked, basically, by what he heard. So the message was from Livingston County Sheriff's Department. They had found her mom's car that she was driving, the Oldsmobile Cutlass, on the side of the I-96, close to the Fowlerville, Michigan exit. Assuming the car had been abandoned, they had towed it to the Sheriff's Department property yard and were calling to let Artis know that it was there so she could pick it up. Which, that's so strange. Like,
She was so close to her mom's area
Yeah.
that it seems so strange.
Yeah. Like, very, very strange. And it's strange that the county, like the sheriff's department, didn't find that strange.
Right.
Like, they just basically towed it, called her, and said, "Hey,
Here's your
come get
car.
your car."
I mean, I
But
guess I could see that happening, but like no investigation as to why, especially with the contents. Where did you say that
right.
her purse was? Was it on the floor? Was it?
I think it was just on the seat.
It was on the seat. That's really concerning because that, I don't know. That just feels wrong to me. If I looked in and saw that, I would probably think it's still a cop seeing that and not thinking.
Right. I don't know. I mean, that's what's strange about it to me.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, so Steve immediately realized that Paige must have decided to drive her mom's car to the airport since it
And
was
she was only 23 miles away from her mom's house.
really.
Yeah, Fowlerville is only 23 miles from Okemos.
Wow.
I don't that's pretty crazy that she was that
It's like, was
close.
somebody following her? That's the other thing I could think of. But
Yeah.
there's another what's it called? Like what they think happened. Why can't I think of the
Very.
word? Theory. That's interesting too that I'll get to. But yeah, he's like, well, she must have drove her mom's car to the airport because it's more roomier. So he
Right.
was certain that she would not have willingly left the car on the side of the road. If the car had been found without Paige, something had to be wrong. So
Yeah.
he called her mom in Atlanta to let her know what was going on, and then Steve called the police and reported Paige missing right after that.
That here's what I'll also say is I'll also say that his reaction to all the events that you just described to me feel completely normal.
Right.
Nothing seems out of the ordinary to
That's
me.
what I
That sounds
thought.
like something I would do.
Right.
Right? So everything that you described seems like things I would do. If I was worried that somebody didn't make it home or that something had happened to somebody and the car was in the driveway, of
Yep.
course I would try to, especially if I knew the
Yeah.
people who lived at that home, of course you would say, look, I apologize,
Right.
if it ever, but
I would have done the same thing.
exactly. And so his actions don't spell suspicious to me.
Me either. And he was never even, I don't think they even ever had the inclination to make him a suspect, from
Yeah,
what I've
that's
read
okay. Got ya.
at this point. So, because I
Okay.
wondered that too when I first read it, I was like, well, it's usually always the husband or the fiance or vice
Yeah,
versa.
exactly.
Um, so, but yeah, so for Paige's family, after all of this, finding her alive was their number one priority. So her mom's home was turned into a makeshift command center for the search, and dozens of neighbors stopped by to offer their assistance. Desperate to get the word out for Paige's disappearance, the family printed thousands of missing flyers and distributed them throughout the area. They knew the traffic on 996 had been heavy that Thursday due to the upcoming holiday weekend, and they had
Mhm.
made several public appeals for motorists who might have seen something to contact the investigators with any
Interesting.
information. And I believe too that they had like billboards made that went all the
That
way
makes sense.
as far north as to Flint, where
Wow.
our area. So even west, I think, just all over basically. I mean, at that point, after so long, you can be in freaking Canada at that point.
Anywhere, yeah.
Because
Yeah.
Canada is very close to, I mean, it's across the
Mhm.
river from Detroit. So,
Yeah.
um,
That's
so
crazy.
that's kind of where things stopped after so long. They just kind of had to stop
Search.
the search. I think it was a couple years later. Nothing. There was nothing. So I think that there were a lot of tips, but like I said, they were very inconsistent and it was not helpful. There was nothing at the scene. I think I read something too where he went with his buddies because he couldn't just sit around. He was like, he had to go do something. So he went to like where they found her car and they searched that whole area themselves, and found nothing.
Wow.
So
wow.
Fast forward, yeah, just nothing. She just, like I said, she's just like she disappeared into thin air.
Right.
So fast forward to current day, the retired detective Lieutenant Todd Luzad of Livingston County Sheriff's Department said in previous interviews that witnesses indicated that Renkoski was talking to a man and gesturing with her hands up in the air while the man had put his hand on her shoulder. So today, Luzad, who has been retired for 5 years at this point, said he believes the case is solvable as long as evidence is preserved. He still listens for reports of skeletal remains being found. He says, every time I see that, I wonder if it's her. And then he says, people driving without their shoes on is not uncommon, but a woman leaving a car and leaving her shoes on a gravel road, shoulder of a road, that's unusual. And it's painful too.
Right.
Which is exactly what we said. Like,
yeah, exactly. I mean, there's no way.
No.
You know, if something happens to the vehicle, to anything, the first thing I'm taking is my bag and my shoes. You know what I mean? A jacket or, you know, whatever the case. What season was it? Was it spring?
May. So yeah.
So okay. So it probably wasn't too cold. But still, I mean, it's just odd to leave your shoes in your purse, especially if you're a woman. That's the first thing that you're gonna grab, you know? Shoes, purse, coat, keys, phone.
Right. And I wondered too, because they said she had like a beer in the car. Listen, I'm drinking a beer right now. You drink a half a beer, you're not going to be making, decisions like that after drinking a little bit of alcohol. I mean, unless maybe she was on medication that made her, I don't know, confused or something, and she had to stop, and then somebody was trying to help her, and then they tried to take her somewhere, and then she just, I have no idea.
Wow.
That's just something I was thinking about at one point, but
it's just weird that would happen on the highway. Like,
with
what
all
were the
those people driving by?
circumstances? Yeah, what were the circumstances that led to her stopping on the highway itself? And you know what I mean? That's what I'm thinking of.
And it's not like she had a flat tire or ran out of gas, because they would have said that.
Right.
So
because like then it might like add up, because then, okay, let's hypothetically say that, some like ran out of gas, flat tire, something like that happened to the vehicle, and she needed to get out to start, figuring out what was wrong. And somebody saw a young girl on the side of the freeway, stopped to try to help. A, there was no other car. B, there was no other like evidence around. You would think that things would be left, you know what I mean? Like, if they were walking, like they would have to walk too at that point. Like, it just seems strange. Like, nobody noticed another vehicle.
I should have looked on Google Maps. Like, obviously it's probably way different 33 years ago, like what it looks like in that area, but is it in I've never been to Fowlerville, so or Okemos. I don't know if it's busy. I'm assuming it is if it's near Detroit.
Let me look. You said what exit number?
It was it was on the I-96 near the Fowlerville exit. It didn't
really say.
Yeah.
Okay. So I would say near the Fowlerville. Okay, so let me see what it looks like. I'm gonna look at Google Maps.
Yeah.
And see what it looks like to drive, like what her drive would have been. Let's just place it here and see. I don't know. It's pretty wooded and.
Yeah.
So it's
Okay.
like it's pretty wooded.
Yep. It's definitely, there's no businesses, which that's what I was picturing, was like,
And
it's a
this is
2-lane
pretty
highway. Okay.
this is approaching Fowlerville now.
Okay. Oh yeah. It's very, I wouldn't say desolate, but it's
right. But there's no
nothing
houses
around. Yeah.
around, no buildings,
Okay.
just flat grassy land, you
Yep.
know.
With trees.
And honestly, I'm a little bit surprised about how flat it actually looks, because usually that's
Oh,
not
there's
the
a house.
case. Usually there's a whole lot more. Oh, here's a house. Yeah, you're right. But now we're getting towards, coming into Fowlerville here. So now we're approaching Fowlerville.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, so
interesting
definitely not a busy
area.
area, but obviously it's an expressway, so there are definitely cars. And on a
Right.
holiday weekend, I'm sure it was a bit busier.
Right. I'm sure it was. Yeah.
That's interesting.
Very.
Yeah. Obviously, we don't know if those houses have been there for 30 years, but they could have
Right.
been. That kind of helps visualize, for me at least,
Yeah.
like what, it could have looked
hmm
like.
Yeah.
But
I don't
yeah,
know.
very interesting.
So what
Well,
was the theory that
yeah,
they,
let me get into that stuff. So, um, Freyer, the detective, he says a staged incident has some validity, quotations, uh, but the physical evidence does not support that theory entirely. He said there has been some damage. There was some damage to the front end, but nothing overly glaring, quote unquote.
so
So,
the damage wasn't there before?
yeah, he said there was some damage to the front end. So they're saying, he says, when someone stages an accident, it's typically to get money. And although Renkoski had a, quote, significant amount of money in an investment account, end quote, it had not been touched. So
Yeah.
it's not like they took money or that they'd noticed that money had been missing.
Yeah, and plus it's hard, isn't it difficult to get money out of investment accounts? I mean,
Yeah, I
I
don't
have
think that's like
so
a quick thing.
yeah. So it's hard to kind of, liquid, have that liquid money
Right.
when it's, yeah. So I don't know.
Another
Yeah.
thing they said, it is possible that she would have stopped if another motorist flashed a police badge or gave any indication that he was an officer and needed her to stop because her father had law enforcement, oh my God, I can't talk, law enforcement experience. He was a retired, well, not then, I don't, well, maybe he was retired then, but anyway, he had law enforcement experience and she had most likely would have respected the badge. So maybe somebody was faking being a police officer.
But for what end though? That's what I'm trying to figure out,
Yeah, I don't know. Like,
And nothing was missing. It's like her purse wasn't even gone.
but if it was just some creep that was trying to find somebody to rape and murder, maybe that's how he could get women to,
Wow.
you know,
True.
maybe that's how he got women to get into his car.
That's true.
I mean, it's not funny, and I'm not laughing at that, but like that's just
Yeah,
unfortunately
that's what happens.
how it goes.
Yeah.
I think that either of those theories, I don't really think that an accident, like a staged accident, would have flown just because no money was missing. So,
Yeah, I mean, even if they staged an accident and then like ran off, I feel like they would have taken the stuff
hmm
to make it difficult for anyone to determine who it was, right? Like if their goal was to kidnap her, murder her, whatever.
Yeah.
I feel like they would have taken her stuff and tried not to leave much of a trace of
That's
her.
true.
You know what I'm
Why would they
saying?
leave all of that stuff for evidence?
Right.
Because it clearly didn't. I mean, either way, it didn't matter because they still can't find her.
Right.
And did they have DNA in the 90s? I don't think so.
I think it was late 90s. I don't think it was early 90s.
Okay.
Let me see. When was...
Because, man, so they solved so much more stuff with DNA.
I know. It says 1986, but I bet it was still pretty
Yeah, that's pretty
new.
Yeah.
That was when it was first used. And it was first used in the UK. So I have to imagine that in Fowlerville,
They didn't have the equipment for that.
Yeah, 4 years after DNA evidence was first used, probably not going to be pretty heavily used at that point.
No, I don't.
Maybe 10 years later, which is unfortunate for, did you say her name was Peggy?
Paige.
Paige, sorry.
Okay. Yeah, I agree. I don't think that a small police station probably had that capability yet. I mean, depending on the, like, I shouldn't really say that because this probably went to a bigger area for investigation. Like, I don't know if Michigan State got involved.
Well, I was just gonna say that even if it were in Lansing, which is the next closest town, I feel like, you know, I still feel as though DNA evidence probably wasn't that highly used in the US. If it was, maybe California, maybe New York, maybe some of those metropolitan areas where crime was really heavy in the 80s and 90s.
Yep.
But maybe not Michigan. I don't know. I could be wrong.
I agree. I don't know either. I'd have to probably look into that some more. But clearly, the longer we're solving more cold cases now than previous years, obviously, because of the developments in DNA and all of that stuff. So at least we're getting somewhere.
Yes.
But they are still looking for her, investigators. They still continue to look for her. In the summer of 2011, the local cold case team used a fairly precisely drawn map from 1999 and ground penetrating radar from the PM Environmental Inc. Incorporated to search 3 Livingston County areas, including a handy township pond that a bank teller told one of the investigators she recalled seeing boots in the area 20 years earlier, which that's kind of random, but as well as property in Conway and Cohocton. Is that how you say that? Townships. So a search at the pond found bones that turned out to be from an animal, and a dive team found nothing in the pond at all, which had been receding in the recent years. So investigators also dug 4 holes in one spot at the at Sober Road in Conway Township, where cadaver dogs indicated a possible presence of human remains, but that was also unsuccessful. And then all 3 of those investigators said they are not giving up, and their search for Paige continues. Freyer says cold cases are very challenging. It's a challenge, and we believe in justice. I do it particularly for Paige's family, who has carried the burden for 25 years. The more information we gather, the closer it brings us to a resolution. There's people out there who know. Point blank.
It'd be crazy if we all remembered things that we saw like that, how many things we would be able to piece together.
I know.
You know, just randomly driving by, like somebody broken down on the side of the road, and then, you know.
Like that, you could have just witnessed
I think about that a lot. I don't know if you do, but I think about that a lot.
I do.
Like, see people on the side of the road and think, man, what happens if this person goes missing? Am I going to remember that they were wearing, a green jacket and, black shoes?
Or like when you're at the gas station buying something and you happen to look up at this one person. What if that person was on the 10 most wanted list and you just ran into them and now you're just not going to remember what he looks like or what he's wearing?
Or a kidnapped human being. You just never know.
I know.
You just never know.
They said too that they even got like a psychic to try and help find her, but it didn't work, I guess.
Pan out, huh?
No.
Wow.
But yeah, the police have ruled this case a homicide, even though her body has never been located, and no one has been charged in her disappearance or death. So they don't, at this point, I'm sure that they're looking for remains at this point. They're not looking for a physical person. But the Michigan Crime Stoppers is still offering a cash reward of up to $2,500 for any information about her. And as of 2019, cold case investigators of the Livingston County Sheriff's Department continue to work on the case. So, her mom did die, but she was a missing person advocate after her daughter's disappearance. She died in 2017 without ever knowing what happened to her daughter. But her sisters, Paige's sisters, and other family members are still actively searching for answers. So, if you know anything about Paige Renkoski, she was born February 2nd, 1960 in Lansing. She was 5'6" tall, 125 pounds the day she went missing. Blonde hair and blue eyes. She has a long surgical scar on the inside of her right arm, a surgical scar on the right leg from a knee replacement, and 2 surgical screws in her left knee. And she was last seen wearing a white silk shirt, multicolored loose-fitting pants, and a long beaded necklace.
Wow.
And that is the story of Paige Renkoski.
That's pretty crazy.
Isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
It's very interesting. And like I said, I'm going to try to see if there's... I didn't see any shows about it on Dateline or stuff, but those shows usually tend to, like, have a ending to them. Like a good ending. This doesn't really have a good ending, but I did read too that her dad said that he thinks that she's buried somewhere close.
I kind of thought about that.
Yeah.
That's too bad. She was older than my parents.
Oh, really?
Yeah. She's older than my parents. Both of them.
Wait. That's so crazy to me that your parents are younger than my parents.
Yeah. Yeah, for everyone listening, I'm older than Maria, but her parents are older than mine.
Yeah, and I'm the oldest in my family, like of the children.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
It is crazy. Wow. Well, I mean, I think that she's probably buried too. I think she probably, I mean, here's what I've got to say. My best guess is that she probably, see, the thing about it is the beer, the beer doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me.
No.
Why she would have purchased a beer and had, drank any of it, to be honest, while driving. But I don't know if we have open...
Yeah, in the 90s, I don't think that it mattered. I don't think there were laws in the 90s about that. I could be wrong, but
let's see when our open container laws went into place.
To me, that's just insane that there was ever a time where it wasn't illegal.
Yeah.
I mean, there were plenty of times when I was younger where I did not follow those rules.
Oh no.
Sorry, Mom.
I
don't think she listens to this.
Okay. Sorry, Mom. But I find it very strange. So I can't really explain that. But even if she did drink it and, you know, just like decide maybe she got, maybe she got tired from the alcohol and just decided, but it's like, why did she need the alcohol to drive home though? And didn't you say that she dropped her mom off in the morning?
Yeah, it was.
Why was she drinking?
I know. I was trying to, because she said she was on her way. So she went to a friend's house too. I don't think I actually mentioned this. I think I might have missed that. So after she dropped her mom off, she went to her friend's house, and then from her friend's house, she went to the party store and got a beer, and I think she was on her way to that softball game for her.
Oh, so maybe
So
she was
at softball games, from what I know, it was a party. From what my dad's
right.
told me, he played softball back in the 90s too, and it was just kind of like a party. So,
Well, it makes sense to me why you would get a beer for a softball game. You
right.
know what I mean? Like that makes sense to me. Baseball game, softball game, soccer game. I mean, I feel like it makes sense to me. But she drank it in the car, or she started drinking it in the car, and that's what throws me a little bit. And that's maybe that's my age.
Yeah, maybe.
But it just feels out of place to me that she would start drinking it in the car. So I don't know. But maybe she got tired and she stopped driving and she thought maybe I'll walk, and then she ended up walking in the wrong direction. I don't know. And she's probably out there somewhere. It's interesting that they used ground penetrating radar, but still did not find any evidence of her being out there.
I know.
Which would kind of destroy my theory of
It's just kind of hard too because they don't have any good tips on where the hell she could be.
Right.
So how do they know where to even start?
Right.
Because like I said, if she got into a car with somebody else, she could be in Canada.
Right.
Or in the river, or
Mm-hmm.
But usually if they're in water, then their bodies end up somewhere. But that's
Yeah.
what I don't think that she's probably alive, unfortunately, but you never know.
Yeah, that is unfortunate.
It is.
Yeah.
So no good resolve of this case, but it's unsolved. Unsolved mystery. But it was interesting, I thought, so I thought I'd share.
Definitely.
But we do have a listener story to share as well.
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't sure, Jessica, if you wanted to read this or if you want me to read it. I don't care either way. I just didn't want you to make you feel like you didn't have anything to contribute today.
No, I'm sorry. No, go for it. I
Okay.
would be happy to hear you read it.
Okay. So this is, sorry, I'm so sniffly. I don't know where this came from. I'm just allergies probably, but so we do have a listener story. So this one is called Paranormal / Weird Encounter Story.
Okay.
And this is, hi. I have so many stories about paranormal weird encounters, but I'll start with this one. And this is from Chris.
Hi, Krista.
And so she says, growing up a pretty lonely kid in a not great family situation, I did have moments of intense love and care. Sometimes I would begin to fall asleep on the couch and I would hear in my half asleep state, Krista, you should go to bed. And it was soft and kind and non-shaming. Nothing like the way I was used to being talked to. It was nice. A soft voice that wanted to care for me. I never remembered feeling afraid. The last time I remember actually hearing the voice, about 15 years ago, saved 7+ lives, mine included.
Whoa.
So I grew up in a small country town in western Oregon on a very dark country road. Growing up in the country, many of the roads are narrow and unlined. Everyone drives too fast and mostly down the middle. That reminds me of the country here, especially at night.
Yes.
It's not like it's busy. You'll always see other cars coming, and if you drive it every day, you know it like the back of your hand.
Right.
When I was about 22 and my oldest child was about 19 months old, now 14, we had gone to visit my grandparents out in the dinky little town where I grew up. I like that word, dinky. We stayed for dinner while they criticized my life choices and parenting as usual.
Aw,
And after a stay that was way too long, headed home. It was
right.
dark and one of the first really nice early summer nights. My baby fell asleep the minute the car started moving, so I turned up the Red Hot Chili Peppers just a little bit and started my commute.
Heck
Like
yeah.
I said, I know. Like I said, the road was dark. Like if you've never been in the country when it's dark, you don't know dark. I was
Right.
That's like driving in northern Michigan at night.
It's true. It's
I
like
was
dark skies everywhere. Like you don't see anything. Yeah.
No, and like there's no lights. No, that's
Yeah.
very uncomfortable.
Barely any moonlight. Yeah.
That's when Bigfoot runs out in front of your car.
Yeah, exactly. Yep.
She says I was driving my then husband's POS Sunflower yellow Geostorm. Not that it matters, but
Oh
that thing
my
was loud
gosh.
and ugly, and I just
A
remembered
sun
how much I hated it.
a sunflower geo. That is amazing.
I know. I'm like, I
That
remember
is
those cars.
amazing. They were tiny little
And
guys,
yellow,
but sunflower yellow, just like chef's
bright
kiss.
yellow.
Yeah, right. Yeah, love it. Love that, Krista.
Uh, that's hilarious. And then she says, "Oh, and the headlights weren't great."
Oh no. Right. So was she
Dri-
being sarcastic there?
No, I think she was being like genuine.
Real. Oh, okay. Got it. Okay. I thought she was being sarcastic, like, oh, it made the even darker, the dark moment even darker, not
Yeah,
having the lights.
I think like it legit made it darker.
Right. Okay, sorry, go ahead.
No, it's okay. Um, I also mentioned that it was normal for people to drive too fast down the middle of the very narrow, unlined roads. I trusted my own judgment and also did this. For me and the Geo, way too fast on that road was probably 45 or 50 miles an hour. So
Mhm.
here I was, chili peppers cranking, sleeping baby, driving down the middle a little too fast and trying to shake off our visit, and I heard the voice.
Oh no.
And the voice, clear as fucking day, said, "Krista, you should move over." The voice has always been kind and wise, and so I did exactly as she said. And right as I was fully on the appropriate side of the road, I sped past a group of 4 or 5 teenage kids sitting in the fucking road. Just sitting there, heads all at bumper level of her car.
Oh my gosh. Just out there with nothing reflective.
Frickin' kids. Seriously.
I'm telling you what, if you were a teenager and you were outside sitting in the middle of a dirt road in the middle of the night, bad idea.
Right?
Like, I know it sounds cool, but bad idea. You're going to get yourself killed. People don't pay attention. You know what I mean? Krista was listening to her instincts, listening to the voice,
Yeah.
and they're lucky. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
She
They
says I
are
was,
real lucky.
yeah, like very, very lucky.
Now, did Krista get out of her car and mom these children? Because that's what
Listen,
I would have done.
listen to this.
Is pulled right over and
There's
said,
more.
"Do you guys know what you're doing?" Yeah.
That's like the words. Oh my gosh. Let me just read.
Yeah.
It's
Go
funny,
ahead.
like, because yes. I was terrified and knew immediately that if I were still driving down the middle, I would have killed them all. And
Right.
probably myself and my child from the accident that would have ensued. Still in shock, I began to slow down a little and start to think about stopping and going back to scream at them for their idiocy. And a yellow lab runs into the road about 25 yards ahead.
No way.
I screech to a stop. The baby wakes up terrified and screaming. I'm terrified, and I just sit there in the car for a moment. I'm too stunned by the last single minute to think, move, call my baby. I'm shaking, and the next thing I know, I'm out of the car and I scream at the top of my lungs, "What the fuck? Get out of the road! I almost killed you!" For clarity, I didn't hit the puppy dog. Thank the universe. They ran off. No idea what happened to them after that.
Oh my gosh.
And then she
The kids
says,
ran off?
no, the dog. The
Oh, the dog
dog that
ran
ran
off.
out in front of, yeah.
Oh my gosh. what are the odds that you almost hit kids and then you almost hit a dog within seconds of each other? I mean, that's bananas. Really, truly.
So she says, I then get into the car and sob. I know that I would have killed those kids were it not for that voice. The voice saved them, and even if my baby and I had survived a crash like that, I'm not sure I could have lived with myself. So the voice saved me and my sweet baby, who is the center of my world. Just like those kids are the center of someone else's world. Whether it's a spirit guide or a spirit, the universe, spirit or a spirit guide, the universe or a deep knowing and intuition, we are all alive today because of that voice.
Right.
Sincerely, Krista.
I know Krista listens to her instincts daily. So if she feels something, I know she's listening to it, because it's that is how I feel.
I wish I had a voice telling me what to do like that sometimes.
Can you imagine? Oh man, I bet that experience lives with her. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Like, God. I don't have anyone speaking to me, but I certainly have like an instinct, which is why I keep referring it to that. You know what I mean? Like, you just have that feeling that like some sort of presence, like guiding you, you know, anyway. So
yeah.
Wow. That's crazy.
Isn't that just the craziest story? I love it.
Right. That's wild.
It's gotta be, I mean, I don't really know, but I feel like it has to be like a spirit guide or an angel of some sort that
a guardian angel.
Yeah. Guarding you.
Protection, yeah, for, you know.
Yeah, you've got some protection there, for sure.
For sure.
That's crazy too. Like, this just happened to me the other day when I was driving Emma to daycare. I kid you not. Like, I don't even know, 2 miles away from the daycare. So our drive is not very long in the morning to get there and back. And 4 separate incidents happened. 4 different animals at 4 separate times ran out in front of me.
Oh my goodness.
A deer. I almost hit a deer. So I had to slam on my brakes. The next one was a fucking turtle.
Oh my gosh.
I was like,
you have the craziest animals.
I mean, I do live close to the river, so that makes sense. But
oh, right, that's right.
The turtle was crossing the road at glacier speed. I mean, come on. This thing was like asking to get killed. I was like, I slammed on the brakes, and had to like miss a car in order to not kill this turtle. And Emma in the back, I could look in the back because I had to slam on my brakes, and I yelled. And I was like, God damn it! And she like had this look like she was concerned, and then she did this, which means all done. And I'm like, I'm sorry, we're almost there.
Oh gosh, that's so funny. She signed all done. Oh, that's hilarious.
I mean, the drive is 5 minutes. Like, that happened in 5 minutes. So I get out. I'm like, geez, oh, Pete. I text Matt, and I was like, I almost hit a turtle, for God's sake, and a deer. And then on my way back, 5 more minutes, another deer runs out in front of me. But I didn't have to slam on my brakes that time because it was still a little bit further ahead.
It was that same deer. I just know it.
Probably. And so I just had to like slow down because there's always more that come after it. But there wasn't. And then like a couple yards away, it looked like a cat, but also when I got closer, it sort of looked like maybe it was a raccoon. I'm not sure, but it was like running across the street.
Of course.
I had to slow down again. I didn't have to slam on my brakes, but I'm like, why are all these animals running out in front of me today? Who is trying to slow me down? Somebody's trying to slow me down today. And I guess I have to listen to it.
Exactly. Yeah, that happens to me too, where I notice myself getting like really agitated in the car. I'm like, you know what? I'm not meant to get to this place on time. That's just what it's not going to
happen.
Yeah. Like, I'm just not going to even. And then sometimes what happens is you find a car accident up ahead and you're like, see, that's what you always find that justification in, what you're feeling.
Yep.
But wow,
that's true. Good stuff there.
Story.
I know. I loved it. Send the rest of your their stories. You said you had more.
Definitely. These are fun to react to, so
Yeah.
I'd love to hear more. And I
They're
know
coming
you guys
in slowly, but coming. So
for sure.
we're getting them.
Yeah, I love it.
But yeah, so that's it. That's all I got today.
Well, this is fun. I'm glad that we got to hang out for a little while and, chat about some true crime.
Yeah, I like it too.
A little bit of paranormal.
Yeah.
So this is fun.
Agreed. Well, until next time.
Yeah. Bye, guys.
Thanks for listening. Thank you, everyone, for listening to today's episode. As always, we love to hear from you, so please send us your listener stories to ycmopod@gmail.com. You can also follow us on Instagram and Twitter at YCMOpod and subscribe to our YouTube channel so we can do some fun stuff over there eventually. If you like what you hear, pretty please give us a 5-star review on Spotify or Apple Podcasts and share us with your friends. If you have episode suggestions or just want to be a guest on our show, also let us know. And last but not least, you can now support the podcast by going to anchor.fm/Maria-Jordan/support. Thank you all again and talk to you soon.